Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Basketball PH podcast. Enjoy the show.
What is up, mga paps? Again, this is your fantasy papi, Papi Roy. Welcome to our episode for today, another special episode before we start the season. There we had a lot of guests in the past week. That's why we call this special episodes, because for today we're gonna have another special guest, which I think you're very much familiar because he's been a household name in the show. We've been really, we're like boyfriends and girlfriends in fantasy basketball. We really enjoy each other's company here. But before we introduce our special guest for today, I would like to shout out for the Daily Sporting. So the Daily Sporting, you can check them out in the dailysporting.com at Daily Sporting in the Facebook page. You can also check them out via their Gmail account, the Daily Sporting at gmail.com, and in Twitter you can follow at TDS Taco. So you now have an idea who's our guest for today, Mr. Taco himself, Steven Gonzalez. So without further ado, let's bring him in the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that warm welcome. Like Poppy said, I love being on the show. I love talking some fantasy basketball with you guys. I love winning. Guys, and I love helping you guys win. So that's why I was so honored to be a part of this show to like help you guys get some information for your seasons because like Poppy knows, we can go on for hours and hours just talking fantasy basketball without the camera even being on. So this is what we do.
Exactly. For those who haven't seen or who didn't know that a certain Mr. Taco exists, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. So I am TDS Taco, so I'm head of the Daily Sporting conglomerate, I guess we could say. I have me and a couple of friends. I put together Daily Sporting in order to just help people win and educate them on different things that they could do for their sports. We cover the three major sports in America, so we cover fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, and fantasy football. Most recently, we've been gearing up for the fantasy football season. You've seen a lot of that content on our Instagram. We were doing specific player profiles. And then we were also doing mock drafts on our YouTube page to give you guys a breakdown from each draft position, an idea of what you should be looking at or what you could be looking at in your drafts. Now, for fantasy basketball, I'm going to be doing something very similar. I'm going to be going over some mock drafts from virtually all the positions. Now, with basketball, it's a little bit different because you have points-based leagues and categories-based leagues. So everyone plays a little bit different game. So I'll try to find a way to give you guys a combination of both points and categories-based strategies. But over this next month, you're going to be seeing a lot more content from us. So be sure to check us out on our YouTube page at The Daily Sporting. And we'll make sure to keep you informed, updated, and ready to go. And we already know Poppy got the best breakdowns. We're doing individual positions for you guys. Like, that is great.
Exactly. And I'm trying to really capture all of the at least I guess it's around 100 players per episode. And then this for this episode, we are going to talk about positional battles for power forwards. And the reason why I ask my our main man here, Mr. Taco, is there's a certain power forward. This is been rooting for quite some time. So I'm sure he's gonna be hyped in explaining and sharing his thoughts about that certain power forward. I'm wondering who is that, right?
I think you'd be shocked. I think you'll be shocked.
Okay. So without let's move forward before we, to keep the cylinders up. What we're going to do for today is similar to the past broadcast. I'm gonna show several positional battles, specifically per power forward. So our guest will pick a certain power forward of his choice, and then he's gonna share his thoughts. And then on the other hand, whoever get will not get picked, I'll try to really defend the case on why would I pick that specific PF. Okay. So to start off, we have Julius Randle and the Big D, Domantas Sabonis. I'm wondering who would you pick?
I'm gonna take Domantas Sabonis, and it's not even close in my eyes as I faced him last season in the waning weeks, and this dude was a walking triple double. The Pacers really started to play through him as they were making their push to the playoffs, and he really dominated. Now this is with Karis LeVert back and with some of their other pieces. The only player that they were missing was TJ Warren. Over the offseason, I don't think they did anything that's going to take away from that centerpiece status that Sabonis has. One of the beautiful things about him as well is that he plays power forward and he plays center. But on top of that, he's shooting over 53% from the field last season. He shot well from the free throw line. And like I said, he was averaging a triple double during that last stretch. So I think he's actually going to carry over the way he ended the season and be a monster going into this season. My only issue with Randall, because I do love Randall, he's near and dear to my heart. I think he could be a great player this season. My only issue is with some of these new players that they've gotten. I don't know quite exactly if he's going to be able to get that scoring that he had last season. Now, I know he's going to get his points. I know he's going to be a vital member of this team. But how much of a points drop-off are we going to have? And what does his percentages look like with these less shots? Is he be able to keep that same efficiency? Because he did shoot under 50%. Now, I think he offers playmaking and he offers, more threes than Sabonis. But, those are the things that worry me a little bit. And I'm a Knicks guy, so you can't tell me about Randall.
Yeah. So well, I'm gonna defend the Knicks here.
Yeah.
Against Mr. Taco. This is a weird situation. I'm trying to defend
This
the
is
New York
fantasy
Knicks against.
basketball. I don't play with
Yeah.
my heart. I play with my head.
Yeah. So the reason why I think I would pick Julius Randle here is because of Rick Carlisle. I'm not yet sure how would Rick Carlisle play out the Indiana Pacers. Uh, the Dallas Mavericks is a slower paced team, and I would assume that that would be the same with the Indiana Pacers. Maybe it helps Sabonis with his rebounds, but um, I was just checking how Carlisle used Christopher Porzingis, and then coming from the New York Knicks, he really dipped in terms of his performance. So they're definitely different players, but I was thinking it's something that I might edge to Julius Randle just because I know how would his coach, the great Thomas Thibodeau, who really plays a lot of minutes. So at least that in that aspect, I'm clear with that. I know that Randall will play. I think he's definitely be the main guy of the New York Knicks. If anyone is really bothered about Kemba Walker, maybe, but I trust Kemba. He's a good player, but I don't trust his knees. So that's something that I think that I could really add in on why I would like Julius Randle as well. Also, they almost provide the same stats, but I'm thinking of the number of games played and the free throw percentage as well. So if you got someone like Trey Young or Carl Anthony Towns in the first round, you can actually partner it with Julius Randle without really looking at the field goal percentages. So it somehow it meshes with up with punting the field goal percentage, and then you get a lot of dimes and a lot of points. So yep, Julius Randle for this first matchup.
Interesting. I tell you, I'm really interested to see how this Knicks offense runs with the additions of Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier, and to see if Mitchell Robinson makes any jumps. As we saw, he did get a lot thicker. He added like 60 pounds
Yeah.
off season. So my question is, did he get any better on the offense though?
Can he stay in the floor
Right?
like without fouling out? But yeah, I think
No,
he
that's
did
another
improve
one.
last season. The only reason his stocks went down is because of the
The
injury.
player.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think he can also be like what I call this, a flyer down the road if people are getting sour in drafting him, he's gonna provide value.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about him last season is that he went so late that you were getting him in the middle of your drafts, but he produced, top end value, and I think that's what players are going to be looking for this year. So, temper expectations when drafting him this high because he's going to have to repeat once you draft him in the first round. Lower you go, you get a little more wiggle room, and yeah, I mean we know he's going to be a focal point, but I want to see training camp with this shit. Like I do. I
For
do.
sure, for sure. For the next matchup, these are kind of like rock solid tenured players. So we have Tobias Harris and Draymond Green.
And for me, I think that I'm going to lean towards Green. I mean, not Green, Harris. The reason why I'm going to lean towards Harris is because we know that homeboy Ben Simmons is dealing with a lot. What that means is that there's going to be open shots and there's going to be open opportunities for Tobias Harris to really get the ball and ball out. On top of that, he's a super efficient player. He shoots great from the field. He shoots great from the free throw. He can knock down the threes and he can score points. He's able to get blocks and he has low turnovers. He's a category player's dream. Everything that he does is done efficiently and effectively. And he's a guy that I think this season has an opportunity to be even better than he was last season, considering what's going on with this Ben Simmons situation.
Nice, nice. I actually like Tobias Harris, but well, I'm gonna go with the donkey, Draymond Green. Number one reason is well, first and foremost, it's gonna if you really play fantasy basketball and especially if you play category leagues, you definitely would notice that it's going to be hard for you to get a lot of dimes in the initial round. If you didn't get a lot of assists initially, it's going to be hard for you to get back up during the mid rounds and then the later rounds. So that's the reason why I'm gonna choose Draymond Green here because those out of position assists is definitely helpful. I think Tobias Harris is great, but in terms of categories, he's doing a lot of things, but he doesn't do a certain thing super special. Compared to Draymond Green, he's gonna give you a lot of dimes. He's gonna give you defense stats. Unfortunately, you're gonna have get some points from other players. But in terms of upside, if Ben Simmons goes out, and well, depending on the player who will be coming back, but I'm pretty sure that third position or that upside to be the second main man for the Phillies up for Tobias Harris. On the other hand, when Clay Thompson comes in, I think Draymond Green will play better because that's how Draymond Green plays. He plays better. He provides more stats when he plays with better players. So, yeah, that's my case for Draymond Green, especially in those middle rounds. I think it's gonna be hard for you to find that's very solid player that can provide you a lot of dimes.
Yeah, I mean, and just to your point, Draymond Green was top 5 last season in assists, averaging 8.9 assists per game. So he definitely was on that. But just to one point where Harris, I agree, he probably doesn't do anything particularly great, but when you're shooting 50 from the field and 90 and almost 90 from the free throw with 19 points, 7 rebounds, almost a block, almost a steal, less than 2 turnovers, over 1.3 threes, I could do that because you don't hurt me anywhere. Like he doesn't hurt you anywhere and he builds everywhere. So if you did have, let's just say, a rebound heavy build or an assist heavy build, you can throw him into that and not really hurt yourself. And he doesn't hurt you in any percentages. Whereas, Draymond Green, he's not a free throw guy. Like, let's be real.
Well, but for last year, coming from the previous year where he provided almost 75%.
Mhm.
Last year he did 79%.
That's
So
true.
imagine that. So
That's true.
I'm not sure if it's something that will you know uh, be better as well this season because that's
And
the aside from his rookie season, that's the highest percentage he had for what almost 10 years.
yep. And the one thing that I can say about Draymond that we forget also is that he's an elite defensive player. So those steals and the blocks that he'll be able to put up will be, pretty valuable as well.
Exactly. We've been, super excited with the first two matches. I'm not sure with the next one. So let's talk about Marcus Morris Sr. and Rui Hachimura.
I mean, I think that this is an interesting positional battle just because One is a young upside kid, and the other is a guy that's going to be filling in for an injury. Kawhi's not going to be there to start, so that's going to open up a lot for Mook. But I think I'm going to go with Rui. I think at the end of the season, Rui kind of just flashed some upside to me that made him super interesting. He looked like he's starting to get comfortable in the game. I like some of the moves that the Washington Wizards made because it's actually going to give him an opportunity to grow more into a role. We're not going to see Russell Westbrook hogging the ball so much. It's going to be more spread out. It's going to be more distribution. Spencer Dinwiddie, I feel like, will definitely try to get Rui involved. And I just like his long-term upside because there's a chance that Kawhi comes back towards the end of the season, towards the fantasy playoffs. And that's the last thing you want is your guy getting time lost right when the prime time counts. So I just like the permanent upside that Rui has versus the temporary upside that Morris has.
Yeah. First and foremost, my issue with Rui is would they play Rui big minutes in the four position? They got Kyle Kuzma. They have several other new players that could play wing in four. Danny Avdia can also play four. So that's one of my concern with Rui. Based on stats, if you give Rui and you give Marcus Morris the same amount of minutes, well, first and foremost, they would need a lot of minutes to really give you fantasy goodies. But on the other hand, just to defend Marcus Morris here, well, it's just about really hoping if he could play that similar value and stats when he was playing with the New York Knicks. That's my only hope. So, other than that, like what Mr. Taco here said, uh, we can't ask a lot from Marcus Morris. He was really scoring a lot last year. First, at some point, he really had like a run with very solid percentage, but I'm not sure if it's something sustainable.
Yep.
Without Kawhi, without solid players that attracts defense, then that's going to be a problem in his efficiency because people will definitely guard him as that number two, number three guy. So, but nonetheless, down maybe in one of your flyer picks in the last round, if you need points and coming from a PF center position, it's
That
gonna be a value there.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That's something that's interesting about Mook that I didn't realize where I made the pick and does make him a little more appealing is that he does have center
Yeah.
position. And kind of like you were saying about Draymond with the out of position stats, he's getting 2.5 threes made with 82% field goal and 47% 47% field goal and 82% free throw. So he's a good free throw shooter. He can knock down the three and he can play the center. It's actually not that bad when you think about it from a later pick. Like if you get a center that can hit threes with one of your final picks, you're actually not doing that bad.
Exactly. Speaking of centers that shoot threes, how about the next matchup? KO Kelly, which is a new Motor City machine gun versus Patrick Williams.
I'm gonna go with Kelly just because what we saw him do last season was ridiculous. Like I don't even think in Patrick Williams' best season will he be able to do what Kelly did last year, shooting 48% from the field, 82%, almost 83% from the free throw, almost 2 threes a game, 7 rebounds, almost 14 points. He had like 3 assists. He had over a steal. He had under 2 turnovers. The dude is efficient. He's effective. He can knock down the three. He can play the center position. He's everything that you're looking for in these later center spots. We were talking earlier how, you have to grab these early centers because, getting guys that don't kill you or that, can be productive matter. And I think this is going to be one of those guys where he might not go in the initial rounds, but in those mid to late rounds, he's going to be a guy that could be super valuable. Now, my question is, what do they do? Do they still have Plumlee on that team?
Yeah, Plumlee's now a Hornet.
Oh, he's a Hornet now. Okay, so that's good because they at least have a spot for him. But I want to see how they use Isaiah Stewart. Are they going to use them in tandem or are they going to be subbing for each other? Because I think that does change some of the upside, especially with the rebounding. Because I think if Stewart's playing, he's going to just dominate those boards. And
Exactly.
we might not be able to expect as many rebounds from Kelly, but, the other stats will be nice.
Yeah, I just don't trust the Detroit
I don't
Pistons
either.
coach because
I don't. I don't
the,
either.
the moment he was talking about playing more Corey Joseph over his rookies, that's the time I was thinking, what?
Yeah. Yeah,
Eh,
especially when you have some of the rookies that they have. Like you still have Killian Hayes and Cunningham. They both
yeah,
should be starting. Like fuck that shit. Put them both out there. Let's see what happens. Let's go with it. Because Killian needs reps too. He's an interesting prospect.
exactly, exactly. So, with that said, I'm down to defend Patrick Williams. So, what I'm thinking about Patrick Williams is if you're looking at the lineup of the Chicago Bulls, I think he's up there in their top two, top three defender. There's a lot of scorer there. There's a lot of player that will ask for the ball. So maybe that could help his fantasy upside, getting more assists or more blocks. So last season, he was providing us almost a steal and point 0.6 blocks. So maybe now it gets to point 0.8 and gives you a steal and point something every game. So in the PF position, that's gonna help him out. He can shoot, he can defend. I think the Chicago Bulls were super high on him, so I'm pretty sure he'll provide a lot of minutes with Tadeus Young out of the Chi Town. So yeah, the upside is there. Would that materialize? That's gonna be an issue. Uh, Especially in the points category because you have Vooch, you have Zach Levine, you have DeMar DeRozan. But luckily for him, he also got Lonzo Ball. So maybe he gets more easy looks, giving if he can provide like at least 10 points a game with high percentage, that's gonna be a good value. And then you add a couple of steals. So that's the upside I see here with Patrick Williams.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think you put it right. It's like his points are going to be limited in this type of role. So what you really need him to do is to hit at solid percentages, keep the turnovers down, and increase his peripheral stats, his blocks, his steals, and his 3 pointers. If he can maintain good percentages while hitting on those other, so basically if he could do good in field goal, good in free throw, low turnovers with steals, blocks, and threes. He may not be the best player, but he'll be solid enough to justify a roster spot.
Exactly, exactly. In deep leagues, I guess he's one of those solid picks
Yeah.
that you can get, especially in the forward position in the later rounds.
Yeah.
Next battle matchup would be two young guns. It's from the OKC, Darius Baisley and Chuma Okiki from the Orlando Magic.
Chuma Okiki. Now for Okiki, I'm gonna go with Darius Basil, just because I'm a little more familiar with this game. The Thunder are a rebuilding team, so they're consistently running out these young guns. So I do think this is going to be opportunity for this kid to get some significant minutes this season as they try to figure out and see who they have. They're also huge people in just building players up and trading them. So I think it even gives them more benefit to give this kid some minutes. Now, as we saw, he's not the best and most efficient player on the court, but he can get you some points. He can get you some rebounds, and he's going to be a pretty good value considering that he'll be in the lower picks, but he's going to get a significant amount of minutes. And that's something when you're in those later rounds that you're going to look for. You're going to look for guys who, you know what, they may not be the best player, but they're going to get enough minutes where they might be able to justify the goodies, as you say. Because just like we were seeing with guys like Rui and all the other guys, are they going to get enough time to do what they have to do in order to put up the stats that you want? And that's something about Basil that he's probably going to get, is that opportunity to put up stats. They're going to have him on the floor, I feel like.
Yeah. On the other hand, speaking of opportunity, given that Markel Fultz is still on the shelf, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Jonathan Isaac. I think he should be ready in the opener, but I'm not sure if
I hope
they
so.
will go they will go all out, giving him
Yeah.
a lot of minutes. But I'm pretty sure he'll definitely provide solid value. But with how Orlando is being built, I don't think Orlando will push him to be, a
No,
straight off the bat play like
absolutely.
30 minutes, right? So with that said, in the limited games that Chuma played last season, he's actually did pretty well. Almost 1-1-1 player. He can provide a snipe, a steal, and can provide a block if given a chance. Because he already provided half a block, 1.1 steals, and 1 point something snipes last year. So I don't think with Aaron Gordon gun, Vucevic gun, looking at the Orlando Magic's lineup, it's kind of like the worst among and all NBA teams right now. But the main player that they are actually have as a scorer was Fultz, but he's down. So I'm assuming maybe Suggs, their prize rookie, will step up. Their El Capitan, Terrence Ross, maybe also doing some scoring. But other than that, I think everyone has like an opportunity. So I'm banking on that. If you need late round snipes with some upside, with steals as well, some 3 and D guy down the line, I think Chumakugi is something that you can check out and
I,
draft.
I'm really interested to see how the Magic play up front, though. Like that to me is going to, because you have Isaac, you have Mo Bamba, you have Wendell Carter Jr. now. How do they rotate those guys? How does that work? Because that, I think that's going to be a fascinating team to watch. Because like you said, they're pretty trashy, so we don't know who's going to come out of there, but someone's going to give you value. We'll tell you that.
And they have a new coach, and then
Yep.
then they got Robin Lopez, and
Like
then
we're
they have the Wagner brothers.
yeah,
There's a
like
lot of things happening.
the number one thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be watching a lot of preseason on teams like that, because there's just so many questions on how they're going to play or what they're going to do that, you know what, we need more information.
So for the next matchup, this is kind of like straight cut, but both has had several unfortunate situations. So let me check, who would you rather have, Christian Wood or John Collins?
I want to say Christian Wood, because I just love the way he plays, and I love his situation. There's really going to be, there's a couple of young guys there who I think could eat into his minutes, but I think he might be traded before then, so that they'll be able to get some value, and he'll go to a team where he'll actually have the impact. With John Collins, I'm just worried about the situation, because it's like there's so many people on Atlanta, and like you just never know. And I feel like with them being healthy in another year for Inyeki Okongwu and all these other guys, that how does it work with the bigs? I know that he's a good shot blocker, he can score, but I give me the double candidate here in Woods.
Yeah, I would have picked Woods as well. Something that to add some, toppings for Christian Wood with John Wall certainly gone in the Houston Rockets. I guess there's a lot of stats that will be shared on those players that were left, like KPJ,
Mhm.
like Mike Kababayan, Filipino represent Jalen Green, and then, well, Christian Wood. But, well, I have to really defend John Collins. I He was really overdrafted last year just because of the previous year where he really provided a lot of stats. But those are the years without Capella. So with Capella in, we've seen how how his stats fell, and then maybe it turns better right now. But the only reason that I would like to pick John Collins over other players is, number one, I think he's one of the healthy ones in terms of those PF centers in the middle rounds. Also, he gives you a great efficiency in terms of the free throw percentage. Plus, he also gives you those pump in the points and snipes. Though he gives you lesser percentages, but remember, in the early rounds, it's going to be hard for you to really get those players that provide 20 points on a day-to-day basis, because after the mid rounds it's gonna be hard, right? So I guess that's one of my case or my angles for John Collins.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. I mean, it's just going to be a situation to watch, man. It's just
Yeah.
hard.
This next one is I'm really excited, or I'm looking forward on your thoughts about it, because I really like these two PFs, PJ Washington and Robert Covington. They have like iffy situation right now.
I'm gonna go with Covington, The reason why I'm going to go with Covington is I like him as a defensive player on a team that definitely needs defense. He's able to give you solid stats because he's able to get 1.4 steals per game and 1.2 blocks. He averages under one turnover a game, and he hits 1.93. So you're talking about he's a 3-point sniper. He gets you good steals, he gets you good blocks, he gets you low turnovers. That's 4 categories right there. Plus, he's a good free throw shooter. That's 5. So if you're talking about in a standard category league, he's a winning player because he wins 5 out of 4. His field goal percentage leaves something to be desired. He doesn't get you the most points because he doesn't even get up to 10 points a game. But he will get you a couple of rebounds and get you some assists, so he doesn't hurt you anywhere, gets you a little bit something everywhere. But like I said, he gets you those 5, which you need. Get your steals, blocks, low turnovers, good free throw, and 3. So I take Covington.
Yeah, Rocco or Babka. It's something that gives me some question marks for Robert Covington's case. Not that much, but given that Larry Nance is already in the Portland
Yeah,
Trailblazers, so it's something that I would like to watch out because Larry Nance and Robert Covington playing at the same time is gonna be interesting.
yeah.
I understand that Larry Nance can play SF. That goes as well with Robkov, but would that work? Would they do that? But yeah, that's something that I would
I,
like
I, I
to
think that
check
could
out.
also work, but also think of it like this: when Nurkic goes down at center, you could run Covington and Nance and have them
Exactly.
kind of, and then you could spread out the floor because they could both hit the 3, so that'll open up the lane for Dame. So I actually would love to see something like that where you have CJ Dame, you put someone at small forward, maybe the dude they traded for Powell, and then you have Nance and Covington on a 5-man set. You can just go completely 5 wide, let Dame pretty much do whatever he wants, and then you have all the open shooters to kick to because Larry Nance can knock down a 3 as well.
Exactly, exactly. But at least for this matchup, I'll be defending the prodigal son of James Borrego,
Oh
PJ
man,
Washington, one of his favorite players. But something that I like with PJ's game is he really upped his stats last season. Almost every stat. Uh, Additional point 0.7 up in points. He provided 1.1 steals last season. He added at least another rebound last season. He even provided 1.2 blocks plus 1.1 steals at the same time. He shot better in the free throw percentage. Well, he shot the worst in the field goal percentage, but with Lamelo Ball, having that second year and then maybe a healthier Gordon Hayward, so he might get better shots. Uh, Cody Zeller is gone, though Mason Plumlee is there. That's something that is actually a gray area for me. I'm still thinking that PJ Washington plays more minutes over Mason Plumlee. He can also play the 4, though I think they are very committed to play Miles Bridges for this season because of how impressive Miles Bridges down the line last season, right? So still James Borrego is a fan of that small ball lineup. So with just that, I think PJ Washington at least will retain what he provided last season, getting a player or a center that shoots threes and gives you steals and blocks. That's gonna be a very solid acquisition. If it's not Draymond Green and it's not Covington, I think you have to go PJ Washington.
yeah, or Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah, yeah, later rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of blocks, next matchup would be one of my young, actually two of my young dudes, because someone's representing my favorite team. So it's gonna be Jaden McDaniels and Keldon Johnson.
And on this one, don't kill me, Poppy, but I'm taking Keldon Johnson. You know what I mean? That's my dude right there. Last season, at the start of the season, he really showed a lot of promise. He was getting those good rebounds. He was scoring. He was efficient. He was effective. He looks like this season with no DeMar DeRozan and with some of the guys that the Spurs, lost in the offseason, he looks like he's going to have a solid role coming into this year. And I think he could be a vital piece to this Spurs team. I know, or it seems like Pop really likes him because I think he put him on the Olympic team, if I remember correctly, or
Yeah,
or, or that call-up squad. So I know he's one of Pop's favorites. And if that's the case, then sign me up. Like, let's see what happens.
yeah. Mustang, as we call this young gun, because he's actually super aggressive, super energetic.
Mhm.
The only thing, despite being one of the Spurs and one of my young dudes, he actually doesn't provide a lot stats in terms
Mhm.
of nine categories. Compared to Jaden McDaniels really provides you a lot of upside in terms of defensive stats, because last year he already provided us one block and more than a half as steals with super limited minutes. Now, something that excites me is how Finch really praised Jaden McDaniels offseason. He was actually comparing him to Scottie Pippen in terms of how would they use Jaden McDaniels. To be honest, there was a time wherein even the Minnesota fans thought that Jaden McDaniels was a steal and their favorite compared to Anthony Davis. But Anthony Edwards. But Anthony Edwards proved them wrong before the season end, because Anthony Edwards blew up before the season end. But nonetheless, luckily for them, they have a very solid young wing here that can provide you those stats.
Mhm.
But at least, despite all the praises, the only gap, or the only thing that is kind of like bad for Jaden McDaniels is his scoring, because he doesn't really score that much. Though he's still a young gun, he can shoot snipes. That's something that you can get from him. Plus, Finch is an offensive strategist. So I'm really hoping that he could push this young wing or young defensive stud to be a player that can provide value in both ends.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And the cool thing is he hits those threes, but I mean, he doesn't shoot that many free throws, but his free throw shooting does leave something to be desired. But I
Yeah,
do agree
yeah.
with you overall. I think he could be a solid piece. And if they're using him like a Scottie Pippen, that means he's going to be on the floor a lot, playing a lot of defense on the primary scorer for the other team, which could give him steals and some blocks upside.
Exactly. And with those players around him that really wants the ball, I think
Yeah.
being that player that guards the main man of the opposing team really
Yeah.
helps out in fantasy basketball.
Yep, and it'll be really interesting to see if he's able to maintain a good percentage of spot up threes. Because with the guys that they have on the field between Beasley and Edwards and even Russell, those guys like to create and try to get to the hoop. But if they don't, they'll kick it out. And if they kick it out and he's able to hit those threes, that could be a solid source of 3 pointers and points.
Exactly, exactly. So for this next matchup, we went young. Now we go back to the to the old timers, sort of. We've already talked something about Larry Nance Jr. Being the new acquisition from the Portland Blazers, but there's this tenured player, Thaddeus Young, looks like the young player that we expected. We didn't expect him to provide value last season. He really shocked us, giving those triple doubles in several weeks. Unfortunately for the Spurs or even those Tad Young fans, it's still up in the air if he stays with the San Antonio Spurs. I think the Phoenix Suns really wanted him. They're trying to create a trade to really get Thaddeus Young. But nonetheless, if I would assess his value in San Antonio Spurs, there's a big chance he starts as their at least center, or even though he plays center, he can also play four. So the minutes will still be there. But what do you think about this matchup,
I,
Mr.
I
Taco?
I'm personally gonna go with Larry Nance and those Blazers, mainly for the two reasons. The first reason deals with Thaddeus Young because one, I don't know what the Spurs are gonna do. The Spurs have been trending young and they have been sitting their older guys on back to backs, and they haven't been playing them towards the end of the season, and they look to trade them, they look to buy them out. I don't know what the situation is going to be with the Spurs and Thaddeus Young and what their plans are. So that does scare me a bit. Whereas the Portland Trailblazers are doing everything that they can in order to keep Damian Lillard happy. And part of that was trading for a guy like Larry Nance. I think that Larry Nance last season, when we saw that he came back with Cleveland, he was performing at a great rate. He was a double-double guy. He knocked down threes. He got some assists. He'll get you some defensive categories. I think that Larry Nance, with minutes, can be a steal. I like Larry Nance a lot. Like I like him more than Covo. You know what I mean? He's Rocco's nice, but give me some Larry Nance.
Actually, the reason why I match these two up, because they almost provide the same
Yep.
stats.
Yep.
someone old that can provide out of position assists,
Yep.
can shoot threes, can also give you defensive stats. So they're almost the same. Just to give an angle for Tadeusz Young, I think if he stays in the San Antonio Spurs or if he goes to the Phoenix Suns, both teams doesn't have a legit PF or center in front of him. Yeah, they have Keldon Johnson, but I think um and Pirtle for the San Antonio Spurs. But looking at it, if strategic wise, I think I would rather start Tadeusz Young and give Keldon Johnson that fresh guy off the bench, and
But
then
knowing how Pop rolls, do you think he's gonna do that? He loves Johnson. Johnson was getting a lot of minutes. Johnson was starting for a good while last year until he fell off a cliff.
well, I think in terms of position, I think Tadeusz Young will start at center, but will also play backup for or at least play more PF with Keldon or behind Keldon. So
Really?
that's what how I see Tadeusz Young if he stays in the San Antonio
He-
Spurs. If he won't and go to the Phoenix Suns, he's gonna be a very solid
Role
backup
player.
role player again at the 5 and 4. They have JaVale McGee there, but in their four, they do have Cam Johnson, a very solid shooter. But there will be situations, especially that they really wanted to, you know, uh, have that very solid run to
Mhm.
be in the finals again. Tadeusz Young's ability to be that next, a down low passer is something that you can't find from Pirtle, from DeAndre Ayton, from Keldon Johnson, from Cam Johnson. So
Yeah.
I think that alone could bring him more minutes just because coaches love that. Your ability to really be that, second or third playmaker could provide some value.
Plus, he can knock down that three, so he could open up the floor as well for the team. I think that if the Suns got him, it's a perfect fit. Not for fantasy basketball purposes. I'd be a little bit wary because there's so many people on that team. But in terms of real basketball, that's a fucking beautiful fit. Just because he does everything and complements everything that team does. You put him at the four. Imagine you're running a lineup with Aiton, Young, then you throw Bridges in there, then you have Booker, and then you have Paul. That's a killer lineup.
Exactly. Almost everyone can play in the both ends of the floor, right?
Yep. And almost everyone can shoot other than Aiton. And you don't
Exactly.
need him to shoot if he's going to be killing you in the paint.
We only need Aiton to really shoot high percentages
Yep.
and rebound the shit out of the ring.
Yep. And get some blocks. Get your blocks up.
Yeah. Hopefully get some blocks.
And hit some if he hits free throws too. Aiton low key kind of showed a lot during that playoff run.
Yeah. I'm actually checking out the pulse of the people on how they value Aiton. Maybe that's something that we'll talk about in the center's position because people hated him
Yeah.
for months,
Yeah.
right? But when they watch Phoenix Suns as an underdog during the finals, they are
Yeah.
actually rooting for him. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Yeah. And the way he played, you were kind of like, oh shit, this guy actually he's not the bust we thought he was. Like he's actually scoring inside efficiently. He's doing his job. He's getting these rebounds. He can block some shots. Like, okay.
I have a GM in one of my league. Shout out to you, Papi Charles,
Uh-huh.
saying that there's no way, zero chance for me to draft Aiton next year. That's before the finals. And
Yeah.
during the finals, we were, chatting each other that really now, really
Yeah.
you don't want those 2020 an upside to provide you 2020 every game.
You know what? Another player that I felt like did that, Trey Young. Trey Young, a lot of people were like, Trey Young, eh. After watching him in the playoffs, you're like, yeah, no. I take Trey. I take Trey. Like Trey, I feel like he's gonna vault up draft boards this season after what he did.
Exactly. So to wrap up these matchups for at least for this specific slide, this is a vet versus a kind of like a sophomore, I guess, not a rook, sophomore. So it's Precious Achua, part of the deal to with Goran Dragic going to the Toronto Raptors, and hopefully healthier Lamarcus Aldridge for the Brooklyn Nets. I put or placed Aldridge here in the four despite really playing majority of the center minutes last season because he's quite slower and sluggish. At least back in the San Antonio Spurs, but I think everyone who gets traded to Brooklyn, that's redeems themselves. Like Blake
Yeah,
Griffin was dunking when he was traded to
absolutely.
Brooklyn.
You get revitalized when you have a shot to win a championship. So I definitely agree with you in that. Um, Personally, I'm gonna lean more towards Aldridge just because of the fact with the Raptors. I don't know what they're going to be doing with their big man rotations, their situations. Pascal Siakam's still there. Where are they going to play OG Anunoby? How does everything work with some of the other? They have Busher, so they have a lot of big men on this team. Like Masai Ujiri is great at building a large collection of talent and just playing the best ones as they come and developing them. So that scares me a little bit. Whereas with the Nets, I think we can pretty safely say that Aldridge is going to be one of their, closing unit guys. He's going to be a big time contributor for this team. I think, like Papi said, we're probably going to see him playing more center this season than power forward because you're probably going to see him and Blake running in tandem with Harden, Kyrie, and KD. I feel like that's going to be how they're really going to shake down at least at closing time with that lineup. So I think that Lamarcus Aldridge, who also can knock down the three, he can hit a mid-range jumper. He's going to be able to get an opportunity for big rebounds. I like Aldridge here just because his role feels safer, and I know he's going to get time at the center, so he's going to have power forward and center eligibility.
I definitely agree with that. And also, if you remember those games that Lamarcus Aldridge played
He was good.
before he, uh, tried to take a rest, he is actually providing solid stats in the Brooklyn Nets, despite having Kevin Durant, despite having Harden and Kyrie. And
Yep.
then during those times, Brooklyn isn't really established yet. So imagine now they are more cohesive. A season past, I think they're gonna be really gunning for the championship. So
Mhm,
I really like Lamarcus Aldridge here, but
mhm.
unfortunately, I have to really defend Precious Achua here. Something a possibility here would be with Siakam out for a couple of months, maybe Precious can help you out in the first, I guess, 2 months or 1 month. So
What's wrong with Pascal?
his shoulder, I think he
Oh,
has an injury. It's not super big. I
mhm.
think by the end of December or early January he should be already playing. But with that said, maybe just maybe you know uh, if you segregate the minutes, OG Anunoby will definitely get a huge bump, but he can't play like the whole
Everywhere.
time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they are look if you look at the trade, I think Masai Ujiri was really gunning for Precious. So if that's the case, they might really look on what would he provide, but that's talking about Masai. Masai. But if we talk about their coach, which doesn't like rookies or young guns, that's gonna be a big question. Because Chris Boucher isn't a rookie, but he doesn't play regular minutes despite providing a lot of value there. So again, well, I have to pick. But if you're a Precious Achua fan, there's still an upside there. Especially that at some point in time they will revitalize or reestablish their lineup. I don't think making Pascal Siakam the main man is the answer. We've seen it in a couple of seasons. I
Mhm.
think it's better if they make Fred VanVleet, that's Stephen Curry type of player, to be their main man. So to take off the pressure out of Pascal Siakam, because when he stepped in and become the main man, I was really preaching about how I can't see that factor in Pascal Siakam as that main man. So maybe if FBB steps up and gives away or takes away those pressure, maybe Pascal Siakam can provide those solid values.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Definitely agree, especially considering Pascal being out. I think Precious's value definitely goes up.
Exactly. So in this last slide for the versus battle, let's talk about some previously injury prone tagged player. So we have here the unicorn Kristaps Porzingis and Zion Williamson. Well, people may say that obviously Zion Williamson. But people might forget that Christopher Zingis is straight up a second round player if he stays healthy. Actually, you can take him uh, last pick in the first round if only he stays healthy. But in addition to that, they have a new coach. So what do you think this impacts for these two solid PFs? Because both has new coach, both has at least played more games versus their previous games. Do you think you would take Porzingis over Zion?
I think this is tough. The reason why it's tough is that Porzingis is so injury prone. Like if I wasn't worried about KP's injury, he's an easy pick over Zion. With the injury history, it makes it a little bit closer, but I still lean towards KP for multiple reasons. One, he's gonna have center eligibility as well, so that's another factor. I love guys that have multiple positions. You can put him at the forward, you can put him at the power forward, and you can put him at the center. Those are the kind of guys that you want in your lineup. Another thing is he's able to hit the three. That's something that Zion has not consistently been able to do since he's been in the NBA, and that's something that I do think that gives KP an advantage. Another thing that we have here is the block shots. KP is a master at blocking shots, and where Zion Williamson still hasn't really developed the defensive stats that you'd be liking. Like I don't think he averages over a block shot yet per game, at least from what I remember off the top of my head. So I think just for those three factors, I'm going to lean towards KP. KP, when he's healthy, he puts up monster fantasy basketball numbers because he knocks down the three. He's a good free throw shooter. And generally speaking, he's able to get a decent field goal and low turnovers. So give me the unicorn and Kristaps Porzingis.
Nice, nice. To add on that, I think Jason Kidd is gonna help out these Dallas players.
Mhm.
Jason Kidd is a players coach for some. Some hated his guts, but with lesser main man in the Dallas Mavericks, which I was really wondering because if they haven't really added like a solid player to help out Luca and
Mhm.
Porzingis here in fantasy, that's gonna help out. That's gonna also mean that maybe the Dallas team thinks that Porzingis is super healthy now because they haven't really tried anything to despite those injuries, they haven't really tried anything to uh, get a player that backs him up. So maybe that's being optimistic with how the Dallas sees Porzingis and Luka in the inside. But I have to really tell you that Zion Williamson is gonna step another in another gear for next season. Why? Lonzo's gone. Lonzo has been super great in the New Orleans Pelicans, especially in the playmaking area. With
Mhm.
that said, we've seen Zion do some playmaking chores.
Mhm.
Brandon Ingram as well. But Zion played a point forward back in high school. So
Mhm.
I would assume more playmaking chores for Zion Williamson with C. Williamson. So at
Mhm.
least you can get like additional assists aside from a very, very solid field goal percentages. If you want field goal percentages, it's gonna be Zion. There's no other player better than him about field goal percentages. I think he's healthier now. Those injury prone tag should be away no more. And then yeah, I they have a new coach, and I assume they would play faster. So faster pace means more stats. So and well, the last case would be I would assume if I would roll the dice, maybe Zion plays more games than Kristaps Porzingis. So that's my
That's
take for
possible.
Zion.
Who's the point guard right now for the Pelicans?
Devontae Graham. Surprise,
Devontae
surprise.
Graham. And
So they have a brick shot. So
yeah,
maybe Valanciunas and Zion Williamson gets a lot of
yeah,
rebounds.
and they still have what Kyra Lewis from last year, right?
Yup, and Alexander Walker.
So it just seems like Zion is going to be running more point guard this year than even I initially thought, just off of that. And if he's playing point forward and he's able to, he could average a triple double. But the problem is he going to knock any threes down? How many blocks is he going to get? What's those turnovers look like? How's his free throw shake out? But I definitely think that Zion has a lot of upside. And if he does, like you said, he's going to be a steal.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I forgot his ranking right now, but I believe his at least in the early picks for the second round in the Yahoo ranking. So that's his value right now.
I mean, third round maybe. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
I
because
don't know.
you don't get steals, you don't get blocks, you don't get snipes. So
Yep,
let's
and you
see.
don't get the free throws.
Exactly. This next matchup is going to be interesting just because people hate the player I like, which is Triple J, going up against Jeremy Grant, who really had a season for his career last year.
Yep. And personally, I'm gonna take Triple J. The reason why I'm gonna take,
Ah,
I mean, like you said, I think Grant had a career season in Detroit, added some quality pieces to their team this year. So I don't think it's going to be the same situation that Grant had last year coming into this year. Cade Cunningham is going to eat into a lot of that usage he had and a lot of time that he had with the ball. With that being said, Triple J offers you everything. He's a shot blocker. He's a rebounder. He can score. He's a solid percentage guy. I think that with that Memphis team, they really missed him last year, and they were missing that extra gear. He's part of their young core, so I feel like they're gonna make sure they take care of this kid, and they're gonna give him an opportunity to shine. So I like the upside that Triple J offers here.
yeah, I love Triple J. If Jonas Nader will be hearing this, Triple J is Jonas Nader's son, so there's
Oh,
there's nobody else in there who loves Triple J. Maybe
yeah,
me, just because people are saying that Memphis Grizzlies is Ja Morant's team, maybe, but this was Triple J's team before Ja Morant came to the Memphis Grizzlies. You want to know the reason why? Because there's no player like uh Triple J as of the moment in the whole NBA. Someone that can play defense, gives you a lot of blocks, but can also do what Cat does and more because he's really shooting a lot of threes. The only concern with Triple J is number one, his health. People are already tagging him as like an injury prone, which
yeah,
really bodes well for us because at least maybe we can get him on a value. Plus, he can't really stay in the floor like in his first season as a rookie. Similar to how Robinson plays, he really ends up really getting those a lot of fouls. So I think I think he improved. I think the Memphis Grizzlies is really trying their best to have that Jamoran Triple J core to happen as soon as possible. They got Xavier Tillman, the best bud of Triple J back in their Sparta days. So I guess Triple J is in Dynasty. You have to get Triple J. That's what I'm
yeah.
trying to say.
I definitely agree.
Jeremy, yeah, Jeremy Grant on the other hand, he could be a value pick still because in Yahoo leagues, all his value is around round 8 or round 9 right now. Value pick in terms of points maybe because at those rounds you can't really get a lot of points. I think Cade Cunningham is a generational talent, but there will still be bumps, similar to how Luka did. He was phenomenal in his rookie days, but they're still rookies. So with that said, with Jeremy Grant still acting that main man role, I think we can get at least 20 and couple of stats out of him. So getting him in that round and getting that 20 points on an average per game, I think that's still a value. And then he also improved, well, not improved, more of like he got his opportunity to really shoot a lot of threes. So that's gonna help out as well. But gone are the days that he's gonna take a lot of usage because they have KO, they have Cade Cunningham. Mason Plumlee isn't a util getter, but I think Stewart will be someone that Cade Cunningham will try to find, and Killian Hayes as well to really score in the paint. So with that said, I would agree with Mr. Taco here. I think Jeremy Grant is someone who will fall decently, but you know, people who remembered him as that second round, third round guy in several weeks will be losing a lot of value if they take Jeremy Grant earlier.
Yep. Yep. I couldn't have said it better. You can't look at last year's stats too much when you look at him this year.
Exactly. Next matchup are two shooters. A new PF acquisition from the San Antonio Spurs, Doug McDermott, who really played well last season for the Indiana Pacers as their role player coming off the bench. And also Davis Bertans, who recently played well before the era of Russell Westbrook. But with Russell Westbrook gone, do you think Davis Bertans will play better at least for this coming season?
See, this is a really tough one because I think that both of these guys offer like they're almost like the same player. I feel like they're solid guys that kind of roll around that can knock down some threes. But they never find enough value everywhere else for you to like be super bullish on. I remember Bertans, I started to get bullish on, and then last season happened, and you're just like, what the. I was not a fan of him last year. Towards the end, he got better. I hope that without Westbrook, there's more shots to go around and they get him more involved. But I'm going to lean more towards Doug McDermott because I think that he'll fit well with a Greg Popovich system. I think that his ability to knock down the three and open the floor may give him a shot to play minutes at that four spot and get a significant type of burn. Even when you have a guy like Thaddeus Young there, like you said, more than likely it seems like Young is going to be traded to a team like the Suns, which would give Dougie the shot to play and get that minutes. So I do think this is a situation where you do have to look at, does that trade happen? Who's Popovich starting? How are they rotating? But I'm going to lean towards Doug because I think that Popovich got him for a reason, and he'll probably fit a nice role with the Spurs.
Yeah, they actually paid Doug McD this off season as well.
Right.
Uh, for Davis Bertans, uh, we we actually saw what he can bring to the table. Unfortunately, Russell Westbrook happened. With Russell Westbrook gone, I don't think Kyle Kuzma is that player who'll and get straight up get the PF position. Yes, there's still Rui, but Davis Bertans can also play some centers in several situations. If you can give him a solid 25 minutes with a Spencer Dinwiddie who really create plays similar to Russell Westbrook, but doesn't get more stats or takes away more stats like Russell Westbrook, maybe that works for Davis Bertans. The Washington Wizard really paid him a lot, so that really shows how they value what he offers. So I think maybe this is the best time for them to let that expectation materialize. So that's what I'm gonna take for Davis Bertans. Again, if you're interested with Davis Bertans, he's a flyer last round because people are really sour on him right now.
And I'm one of them.
It's like in your last pick, what you'll see in the Yahoo drafts is you see Duncan Robinson, you see Davis Bertans. So it's just a matter of taking a lot of snipes. You see Seth Curry
Yeah.
available.
Although Seth Curry, I think he might be moving up the board, man. Seth Curry was pretty
Exactly.
nasty last year.
Okay, this is kind of like a boring matchup in terms of what they offer. Serge Ibaka is still out as of the moment. I'm not sure if he stays healthy, but with Kawhi gone, maybe he can provide value. And then also, Paul Millsap was recently acquired by Brooklyn Nets, but Lamarcus Aldridge is also playing right now. When Lamarcus Aldridge isn't playing, I'm pretty sure he'll get more minutes there because I doubt that Blake Griffin is a solid center. He could be a backup for Kevin Durant, but I would rather have Paul Millsap there. Thing is, Paul Millsap also plays well at the center right now at this
Mhm.
point of his career. Yes, he can do that Jeff Green role because Jeff Green is now in the Denver Nuggets. But what would Blake Griffin do then? So there's like a clog of vets similar to how Lakers does, but I guess it's like the clog is more with the Brooklyn Nets, especially with a very young and talented Nick Claxton also around in the Brooklyn Nets.
Yep.
So do you think Paul Millsap could still provide value despite that situation?
I think that he can provide value in that situation because it's going to be more of a rotation, and you're going to see these guys getting you're probably going to see a split of the game. So you'll see Aldridge, Griffin, and Millsap rotating, pretty much a lot, and you'll see that young gun Claxton getting a lot of burn. You'll probably give more burn to Claxton and let him roll at that center because he's a good defensive player. He can anchor the middle, and then you rotate the other guys at power forward with one of them acting as the true, backup center and closing time center. At closing time, I think you'll probably see Claxton on the bench, and you'll see them running with either, Blake, Lamar, or Millsap, a combination of two of those three. But that does make it a sticky situation, like you said. I think Ibaka. Now you're telling me Ibaka's still hurt?
I think he's still hurt. I can't find any updates. But
That's what's
given that he was hurt and didn't play a lot last season,
when he
I
played
assumed
last
he played.
season, he was like, for a center that's going to get you over a block, over a three, shoot 50 from the field, shoot 80 from the free throw, be able to get you almost like 8 points, 8 rebounds. I'll take that on my team all day for a center, especially considering how hard it is to find good quality centers that can hit good free throw percentages, be able to hit 3-pointers, and be able to block shots with low turnovers. That to me is a recipe for success with Ibaka, but I need to know how he's handling the injury situations, because that's going to be a huge important piece to the Ibaka puzzle. Because if he's healthy, and you're telling me he's the starting power forward, and you're telling me there's no Kawhi Leonard, I'm going to lean towards Serge because he'll have more of a point upside, and he's able to get you more blocks than a guy like Millsap.
Exactly. So this is like a very messy situation right now. So we just have to really need to shed some light to
Right.
really get a clear value for these two. Uh,
Absolutely.
this next matchup is going to be fun in some sense because people hated Bobby Portis for a while.
Oof, not
Maybe
lying.
because maybe because he punched uh, I remember Nikola Mirotic. He
Yeah.
punched Nikola
Yeah.
Mirotic. On the other hand, people really loved Laurie Markkinen before. He was thought as the next Dirk Nowitzki.
Yep.
But things are different right now.
Mhm.
Bobby Portis is a champion, and then Markkinen, I'm not sure what he does for the Cubs.
Yep.
So with that said, who would you rather have?
I am
Bobby
taking
Portis or Laurie Markkinen?
Crazy Eyes Portis. That is my guy. If we remember what he did last season, he was a top 100 player, top 75 player for most of the year, playing limited minutes as a backup center. Think about this. He gets you blocks, he gets you steals, he gets you 3-pointers, he shoots good field goal percentages. It's funny. There's a lot more of these type centers that are showing up in the league now than I remember before, because I think I've said this now about like 4 or 5 guys who can block some shots, who can get you some threes, and he can shoot good free throws. But that's what Bobby Portis does. Not only that, Bobby Portis can score some points. He's a fan favorite. The coach likes him. He operated well in the system last year. In that system, in 9 category leagues, he was a top 50 player for a good portion of the season until he got hurt and he started slide. Then his value started to slide. But then when you saw the playoffs happen, you saw just how important and impactful he was for that lineup. This dude was out there balling. He plays well with some of these other guys. And I think in most situations, he's going to be a solid 20, 25 minutes. Whereas with Laurie Markkinen, there is so many big men in Cleveland. I just don't know what's going to happen there. You got Evan Mobley, you got Jared Allen, now you have Laurie Markkinen. It's like, okay, and I feel like he's going to be someone that's going to be traded next. I don't think that he's going to be lasting the whole season with Cleveland because it just doesn't make sense to me. You don't draft Evan Mobley and you don't sign Jared Allen and then add Markkinen, and then you have all your other picks and all the other stuff. It just doesn't make sense to me. It seems like he's going to be there for a deal.
Yeah. They also added Taco Fall there. So
Yeah, like what the
there's
fuck
a
do
lot
you have any centers?
and they still have Kevin Love as well. So it's
Yeah,
a very crowded front court for the Cavaliers. Just
absolutely.
to add to Bobby Portis and bring some more spice with PJ Tucker gun, I think Bobby Portis gets like more role and more playing time. I don't think there. I mean, if I'm looking at the Milwaukee Bucks right now, who would play that PJ Tucker role? I think the nearest player, at least in terms of size, is going to be Bobby Portis. Maybe Grayson
Oh,
Allen just for the grit,
they
but
have Grayson Allen on the team now.
yeah, because they
I
lost Bryn Forbes.
They lost Forbes. Where did Forbes
Yeah,
go?
back to San Antonio. So I guess Grayson Allen will be their
Yeah,
lone
because
sniper.
I was gonna say Forbes was a nice play for them, and that would have been the guy that I would have said would have taken the Tucker role. But I think Grayson Allen last season with the Memphis Grizzlies showed a little something to a lot of people. He was knocking down those threes at a good rate.
Exactly. I really liked Grayson Allen despite people hating on him.
Yeah,
I do understand why. But
yeah,
for some reason, I like those grit and grind players. And
yeah.
also, Grayson Allen doesn't just, hurt players right now. He definitely improved. And again, looking at the lineup, aside from like Chris Middleton, who else is their shooter? It's going to be Grayson Allen for sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I feel like this is going to be a team that's going to be heavy on the buyout market. Once we know midseason happens and teams are ready to make that youth movement and they start cutting some guys, like I could see a Thaddeus Young going onto a team like this and be an interesting fit because he can play that small forward position. You'll stay big. He could defend, like you said. He's a good passer. He can knock down the three. I think it'll be interesting to see what the Bucks do, but I definitely think the Bucks are going to make another move for a shooter and for someone that can play a wing.
Exactly, exactly. On the other hand, the only thing that gives me optimism for Laurie Markkinen is once they get rid of Kevin Love, because at least they have that maybe
They
off
still
the
have
bench
Love too.
player that can score. But that's the only thing, because he can't defend, he can't pass, so it's just a matter of you relying on his shooting percentages. So if he doesn't shoot well, what does he do? It doesn't do anything anymore. So that's gonna be a big
So wait, you're telling me
problem for
they have Mobley, you have Love, you have Marketing, you have Jarrett Allen. Like
and
what the
Taco
hell?
Fall.
Like how? Like I don't even know if you could take anyone from that backcourt. I mean, from that front court and expect anything because it's like who's really like Jared Allen would have been a sleeper. Like everyone would have loved him this year if you didn't have 18 fucking big men over there. It's
I
ridiculous.
hope I hope they do some changes back in the
Yeah,
Cavaliers.
absolutely, absolutely. They have to. They have to.
Yeah. That was a very solid run in terms of matchup. So now let's go to our next part here wherein I'm gonna ask you. This is sort of like a fast-paced question, and then just gonna ask you which what's your take for these players if they would still trend up or trend down. So this is gonna be fun, especially on the first one. Do you
Oh yeah.
think there's still another gear for Giannis Antetokounmpo?
I definitely do think there's another gear for Giannis on Scuba, although it's harder to be better than a top, three pick, top two pick, number one pick. I do think there's another gear, and this guy's perennially been one of the best players in the game. He's one of the best defensive players in the game. So he gets you the steals, he gets you the blocks. But what he's starting to do now is he's starting to hit free throws and he's starting to hit threes, and that's the next territory for Giannis. If Giannis can get you half a three a game, and he can shoot almost 80% from the 75% from the free throw line, you'd be looking at a bona fide, certified fantasy basketball Hall of Famer, first ballot, lock it up. This dude is everything, and he has center eligibility. Like, it's very, very hard to tell me there's many players that you would rather have on your fantasy basketball team than Giannis Antetokounmpo this year, especially if we just saw that free throw increase that he did. He's like, y'all want to clown me? Y'all want to act like I can't shoot free throws? Guess what? Water.
I hope he can do that for the
Right?
whole regular season.
Right? Imagine he
So
actually shoots good free throws again. Holy shit.
he actually averaged more than one snipe last season. So it's something that Giannis has improved on. So yeah, personally I would agree that I'm still waiting for that Greek freak of a player. The next there's a lot of players who will take away the throne coming from LeBron James, because LeBron James during his heyday is just a freak of nature. So let's see if Greek Freak would do that, or a new finesse player like Luka Doncic could,
Yep.
assume that throne. So
And
it's gonna be exciting generation.
I'm not gonna lie to you, like Giannis is even bigger than freaking LeBron. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
exactly.
LeBron is a physical specimen, and so is Giannis. But Giannis is like bigger than him. It's just like whoa. And Giannis, if we remember how great he played defensively in the finals, especially towards the end of the game 6, game 7, where this dude was going completely all out. You watch that player play, and you're like, LeBron, who? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he
Yeah,
was like,
exactly.
wow. Like, wow.
He was a monster indeed.
Yep.
Next up, uh, Kevin Love.
I think that says it all. I am super down on the Cavs. We just went over this, man. There's a million big men over there. What's the difference between him and Laurie Marketing? Age and contract. Like, that's it. Like, that's the same fucking guy. So the Cavs have been trying to trade him for like 3 years. They shut him down last year. He barely played last year. I just hope that he gets traded to a team like the Clippers, like the Lakers, just a team where he can go spot up, where he can get some decent minutes at the 4. Right now, you do not touch Kevin Love until he gets traded. You do not touch Kevin Love until he gets traded. I repeat this. With your last pick, you do not touch Kevin Love unless he's traded.
Exactly. He didn't even get back in the US team when he was expecting for the Olympics. So
Bro, he wasn't even in shape. Like, no, he's done.
exactly. Next up, Blake Griffin, another oldies.
Oh, yeah, he looked great when he was with the Nets. And when you think about it, the Nets don't have any big men. So he's going to get power forward and center time. He hits the 3. He can get some rebounds. He's not going to be an all-star. He's not going to be, Blake Griffin from the Clippers or even Blake Griffin from – well, he's going to be a little bit better than Blake Griffin from the Pistons. So he's not going to be like the Clippers version. And I think that he's worth it in those later rounds. I like his upside. I just don't like – spending more than a late pick on him.
Nice, nice. How about this dude? I think majority of his role is an SF, but they've been playing Okoro hard, so he actually played in certain situations as a PF last season.
Yeah.
With I think Dean Wade as well. So do you think Chedi Osman could play more
He's
PF?
interesting. He had stretches last season where he was pretty good and he showed off some value. But this Cleveland team is just so weird. I don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to run their offense or who's going to play where, because they have Garland, they have Sexton, and then didn't they signed or they drafted another guy. Who's the Isaac Okoro they have, right? So
Yeah.
between those 3 guys, you would figure that's power forward. I mean, small forward, shooting guard, and point guard. More than likely, that would be what I would assume. And then, are you going to run a Okoro at small forward? Or are you going to run him at shooting guard? Does that open up the small forward for Seti? Because if it does, then yeah, Seti's going to have value. If Seti's coming off the bench, how much time is he going to get off the bench? How much minutes are you going to give to Okoro? I think that's where the big keys come in. Is for me, it's what do you do with Isaac Okoro and how do you make that run? Because Isaac Okoro is supposed to be that defensive player in this lineup and that glue guy. So it's hard, and he was a top pick for them. It's hard for me to not see them playing Okoro this year. So I'm kind of medium on Seti. I got to see the role first before I can go. So he's like this. This is Seti.
Yeah. And then the fact that they're actually trying to shop Colin Sexton means that they're trying to, you know, uh,
Yeah.
move on a different direction. They lost their main cavalier, which is Larry Nance. Larry Nance has been their leader for quite some time
Yep.
since Kyrie and LeBron left. So yeah, I'm not sure as well for Chedi Osman. How about this dude, Maxi Kleber? Maxi Kleber, when he plays, there will be games wherein this dude can really provide fantasy stats because he shoots 3 points well. He gives you a lot of blocks, and he's efficient. But last season, neither him or Dwight Powell is fantasy relevant. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure. What do you think about Max
I feel like
Kleber?
he's like a poor man's Bobby Portis. Like, you know what I mean? He does what Bobby Portis does, but he just doesn't do it as well. And that's why he wasn't fantasy relevant, because a lot of Bobby Portis's value is very borderline. He gets that high up because he does so many things good enough to vault his value. Whereas Maxi, I'm just not sure how that position rolls, especially when you have Kristaps Porzingis there. He takes a lot of that shot blocking and center and threes, and it makes you wonder, like, okay, Maxi, like, how many minutes can you really get, and can you really dominate? Like you said, last season they didn't. So more than likely, as a later round flyer, it's okay, it's solid because he does get a decent amount of blocks and he can knock down the three, so that makes him interesting. But I'd say he's a late round pick at best, but more than likely you could probably find someone better than him. So I would say he's more than likely trending down in my eyes.
Yeah, no upside here. And if you're gunning for maybe in deeper leagues, but again,
Yeah.
I can't even unless otherwise Kristaps Porzingis goes down, knock on the
Yep.
wood. That's the only time he gets value there.
Yep.
Next up, Spicy P,
I
Pascal
think
Siakam.
he has to be trending down just because of the injury and just because we know the Raptors are trying to trade him, but they weren't able to. So to me, that means I don't know what's going to go on this season or where he could end up. So if he ends up in a situation that's not that great for him for fantasy purposes, you could be totally burned. So I'm trending down on him. I'm not as high as on him. Last season, his percentages went down when he became the main man. Like we were talking about, it looks better for the Raptors to go through Fred VanVleet than to go through Pascal Siakam. I would hope that Pascal ends up on a team like the Hornets. That is where I want him to go. If he goes with the Hornets, I feel like his value is going to rebound tremendously. But if he goes somewhere else, it could be interesting. So he's a wait and see guy, but right now he's trending down just because it's too many questions as we head into drafts.
Yeah, and then I guess earlier we've also shed some takes as well for Spicy Piece, kind of like shaky
Yep.
leadership role
Yep.
since Kawhi's departure. This one's interesting because Zach Collins is now a Spur, and then before in the Portland Blazers, I remember that season we're in. I really like Zach Collins. He really blocks a lot and gives you snipe. But after a couple of months playing well, he went down, and then the following season he went down again. So um, the San Antonio Spurs needed a lot of defense, a lot of snipes. Is this Zach Collins, kind of like opportunity, but it's Spurs, so I'm really not sure about.
See, the Spurs signed him, so that's interesting. It's not like they traded for him or he was part of a package deal where they were offering a player and he came back in the deal. They signed him, so that means they like him. So that does give him some good upside. But I mean, how many Spurs do we mention at this power forward center position? You got Jakob Poeltl, you have Collins. You're talking about what is it? The Thaddeus Young. You got Doug McDermott. They have quite a few guys at that position. So until we're able to more clearly see who's going to be rolling with that position, it's hard to justify him getting a spot. Maybe if you want to put him as a last round dart throw because of his opportunity, and his skill set, I can understand that. But he's trending down for him because I don't see a clear path to him playing or a clear path to fantasy relevance. If he's getting 20 minutes in this offense, is that enough for him to be, a player that you roster? I don't know. Is he able to get you enough rebounds and steals and assists to justify it? I just don't know. I just don't know. I'm trending down on him though. I'm not that bullish.
Yeah, and the main question here as well is how healthy is he?
Yeah.
Because he haven't proved us if that he can play the whole season.
Yep.
Joel Embiid already proved us that he could almost play the whole season last
Yeah.
year. So this guy haven't done that yet.
They're no Jokic. My man plays every game,
Yeah,
every minute, and he looks like he just came out the rec league.
and if you saw the new picture of Nikola Jokic, he's super buff right now. So
Oh,
I'm
really?
super excited. Yeah,
Oh no, I have
Mr.
to look at this.
Diener.
Like, damn, he's definitely a top 2 pick this year.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a clear cut number one if you're not panting a free throw percentage.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, if Giannis can hit those free throws, then we gotta talk.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Next up, Marvin Bagley. Will he ever be that guy that majority of the people expects him to be?
I'm double down, thumbs down on Marvin Bagley because I'll tell you this, man. He wants out of the Kings. The Kings organization ain't great. It's just been a shit show from the beginning. So until he's on a new team, I am staying away. I will let someone else take that risk. I am not seeing enough with the combination of the Kings and him coming together to make a role, to make a position, to get success. And for that reason, I am out. I am not just a little out. I'm all the way out. I want no part of him. Maybe if you're talking about the last round as a flyer, okay, sure, because that's an easy guy to cut. But you're not seeing me get him in the middle rounds at all. It has to be a super late pick. And at that, I probably would find a way to take somebody else. Like I'll probably take Spicy P and just like stash him or something rather than taking a Marvin Bagley.
Yeah. But personally, I think Marvin Bagley is a stud for those leagues that only has two categories. So, I see you waiting, but what? Stud?
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah,
ooh,
but
where are you going with this one? That was good. I like that.
so unless otherwise you have that league, I
Yeah.
don't think he's
Yeah.
actually draftable.
And the
But
two categories that he'd be good at is negative field goal percentage and turnovers.
but if actually in deeper leagues and even in standard leagues, if you end up needing some rebounds, then yeah, I would check him out in your last pick. But other than that, I can't see any reason why would you draft Marvin Bagley. Next up, a happy Melo. Do you think a happy Carmelo Anthony can provide value even just in deeper leagues? Last season, he's quite. He actually gave a lot of weeks wherein he's actually within the top 100 player.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It's an interesting situation here because with the Lakers, we know he's probably going to be in the closing lineup. I see him probably playing a decent amount of small forward when you move, LeBron and AD up. But for the most part, there's a lot of players there. I mean, I would like Carmelo over Bagley as a final pick, just because he gets you some scoring, get you some threes, get you solid free throw. But he's not going to give you much as far as blocks, rebounds, assists, or steals. I mean, rebounds, I think it's capped when you look at a team like that has LeBron, that has Westbrook, that has, Dwight Howard. These guys are rebounding monsters, and Carmelo Anthony ain't that kind of guy. So if he's averaging 3 rebounds a game, you're going to be happy. Assist-wise, I don't really see him averaging more than 2 assists. Steals, I don't think he's getting more than a steal a game. Blocks, I don't think he's getting more than a block a game. So his true value comes down to, can he knock down threes at an effective rate and not turn the ball over? And then he can provide you some late round value. But overall, his whole value is capped because he can't do anything other than score and knock down threes. All the other roles are filled, especially when you have a guy like Westbrook on this team.
Exactly. And also, I think for those listeners who are just new in fantasy, this is one sample of a player that you won't draft just because of the name.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you have to learn in fantasy basketball. Because not all big names can contribute in fantasy, even in reality. Because people love Melo. I really like Melo during his rookie season. I even liked him over LeBron in several instances because Melo is a fighter. When he was a rookie, he's really more aggressive than LeBron. But yeah, at this point, I don't know.
Carmelo is one of my all-time favorite players as a Knicks fan. Just because he wanted to embrace this challenge, he took it in. He's an all-time great scorer. But the problem is he doesn't get the same volume that he had here in New York, and that's definitely going to hurt his value. And if it was that Melo, yes, this is Melo at the twilight of his career. Being a guy on a minimum contract, you can't really expect that much out of him. And anyone that takes him above the final 3 rounds is literally, on crack. You're on something. You got to be drug tested if you take him before the final 3 rounds.
You have to follow more Mr.Taco to really learn more if you're drafting Melo early in fantasy.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'll be doing some mock drafts, so I can give people some, almost round by round breakdowns, and Poppy definitely gonna have you on for a mock draft or 2, because I think it'll be super cool just seeing us build a team and have these actual battles where it's like, all right, We have Marvin Bagley, we have Cam Johnson, and Carmelo Anthony. Who are you taking?
Exactly. Last player for this round would be Cam Johnson. He played a solid role during the finals.
Mhm.
Would that be something that we expect during the season? Personally, I think yes, just because um, maybe this is the season where in CP3 tones down. So it means more production out of any players that is in the at least core rotation of the Phoenix Suns. But how about you?
I think that what Cam Johnson did in the finals definitely opened my eyes because he was a sniper. This dude was knocking down those threes, and I was sitting there, I was like, oh, okay, boy, I like this. He's a good defensive player, and if he's playing that power forward position, I like his upside. Now, I don't really think that he's going to get enough minutes for you to justify putting him into those upper rounds, but as a later round pick, I mean, let's put it like this. So far on this page, he's the guy that I like the most. Compared to Spicy P, compared to Collins, compared to Bagley, compared to Mello, I like Johnson's upside because he can knock down those threes. He's a defensive guy, and with the Suns, it looks like they're going to give him a shot to shine. He's a young kid, so he has room to grow. And I think that with the way this team is built, they saw his value, and I think that he's going to get some good minutes this year.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would agree in these specific players, though I would love some healthy spicy P over Cam Johnson.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, Cam Johnson is someone who gives you amazing stats for a couple of days and then they play more Jay Crowder. So that's gonna be the next question this season. Would that happen again?
Mhm.
Because Cam Johnson really delivers. Remember the time wherein they CP3 isn't in the Phoenix Suns yet. Cam Johnson as a rookie really helped out Devin Booker during those times. Even in the bubble, he was almost their next player scorer during the bubble. The team that really shocked everyone with those streaks. So they really need to give more opportunities for Cam Johnson.
Mhm. 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 Absolutely
La-
agree with you there.
Last round, we won't talk PF if we won't talk Anthony Davis. So Anthony Davis, uh, a former number one pick in all of fantasy, will still. Is there a chance that he could be he could have that a top one season again, or
It's
what do
all
you
about
think?
health. It's all about health. He's the most talented player on that Lakers team right now. He is the guy. He can do everything and anything you ask for on the basketball court, other than stay healthy on a consistent basis. That's the only thing he can do. He's an elite shot blocker. Elite. We're talking about one of the best. He is an elite steals guy. He is an elite rebounder. He is an elite scorer. He can shoot free throws. He can get the 3-pointer. He doesn't turn the ball over that much. He shoots good percentages. He is one of those guys where if he is healthy, you go, oh my God, I got Anthony Davis. You run, you jump, you scream. He is a guy you dream of having on your team. Now, the question is, can he stay healthy and can he sustain it over a season? That's the only issue you have with Anthony Davis. And I think that just comes down to where you're drafting and who's on the board and who are you looking at. I think that he's definitely one of the top 5 players in the game without question. And it comes down to what's your risk tolerance level. Do you want the risk of a certain player over him? That's all up to the individual person. But I could see him easily going over guys like Curry, Lillard. While they're great, I'm talking about a center that does everything.
Yeah, and personally, I won't let Anthony Davis pass the first round because he's actually been being drafted number 10
Ooh.
almost, or even sometimes in the second round, just because people are really afraid of Anthony Davis. So this is, if you're watching this and you haven't been playing fantasy for like years now, this is my challenge for you. Find anyone or any player in those like Jason Tatum, Trey Young. Find any players other than Anthony Davis that can be that number one fantasy player. You can't find anyone
Okay,
in
I,
that
I got a
range.
quick question for you, Poppy. Off the top of your head, who's your top 5 in fantasy?
That's Nikola Jokic,
Uh huh.
Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Uh huh.
Stephen Curry.
Uh-huh.
Carl Anthony Towns,
Uh-huh.
and then maybe Luka Doncic.
How do you feel about, and it's just a quick one off the top, James Harden this season?
Oh, I forgot. So if I'll be adding, I would have like added James Harden there. Then I'm gonna bump out Luka Doncic.
Fair. Fair. And I think that, you're looking at 6 guys right there, and then probably afterwards, Lillard, Embiid, and I think that's kind of where you can slide in Anthony Davis right there. Lillard,
Yeah,
Embiid, Anthony Davis. That's kind of where
Durant.
you'll be looking at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just a matter of. To be honest, it's gonna be fun this coming season
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of value there. There's a lot of players that were
Mm-hmm.
injured or were like
Mm-hmm.
didn't play due to COVID cases last season. So people will devalue some of them, but there are also players that played a lot well during the finals. So people will overvalue them. So it's gonna be fun.
Yep. And then, okay, last question on this one. Who would you rather have, Joel Embiid or Anthony Davis?
I think Joel Embiid.
Yeah,
But
that's
but
one of those tough ones.
but for me, if uh on that matter, because they are both centers,
Yep.
I think Joel Embiid just because of the upside. Because Joel Embiid is also one player, despite not having a history of being a number one player. I think he could also be that player that
Yep.
could really be a number one player. Because Jokic was out of the blue last season. We didn't expect him to be that number one player. It was Harden every season,
Ah,
always Harden, right?
I mean, last season I did a specific video on James Harden. Well, I said he wasn't the number one pick, and I actually had Antetokounmpo and Jokic as those guys there because they're complete stat stuffers, and that's why I agree with you on the Embiid tip because Embiid, not only is he a stat stuffer, which I do think his assists will go up if there's less Ben Simmons, but he's going to be the primary guy on the team, so he's going to get the focal point of the points, which is the same thing that Jokic gets. But with Anthony Davis, is that going to happen when you have LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and the other guys on the team? So that's why I do agree with you on Embiid, and I do think that he, like you said, has that shot to be the number one type guy because he is the guy on his team. He's the focal point. No one else is going to touch it more than him. But the other sneaky guy I think is going to be James Harden. Like, if James Harden averages like 14 assists a game, and like he's scoring 20 points and he's shooting great from the field, that dude is going to be a problem.
The reason why that I still like James Harden there is someone that can give you
Yeah.
double digit assist, can give you
Yeah.
steals, sometimes can give you blocks out
Yeah.
of a guard position. That's gonna be
Yep.
still better with an upside of two aging and injury prone players beside
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be the upside there. But just
Absolutely.
to go back again to Joel Embiid, something that I think that will definitely push him, at least for this season, is he was healthy last season at least
Yeah.
most of the time, and he got a knock of being the number one player in the league.
Yep.
And knowing his personality, I think he wanted to top that. So
Yeah.
I'm banking on that energy for Joel Embiid.
Yep. I agree with you.
Okay. So solid takes there. Again, Mr. Taco. So quickly for this one, this isn't like super names here, as like Joel Embiid or Anthony Davis, but
Mhm.
Justice Winslow. uh, this is intriguing because Clippers got Justice Winslow, and then Kawhi Leonard is out. Is there a chance he would be at least the same? He could provide all at least the same value that he provided back in his Miami days, because I think that's the only time he was at least fantasy relevant, right?
Even in his Miami days, he wasn't even that great. I am not in on Justice Winslow. I don't trust him. He doesn't shoot good enough for me. I'd rather take my Flyers somewhere else. He might have a volume upside with no Kawhi Leonard, but I don't trust Justice Winslow at all.
Got it. And how about this one from New York Knicks? Obi Toppin.
This is tough for me, guys, because this is a hometown guy for me.
Uh oh.
I watched a lot of Obi last year, and I didn't like the way we used him initially. But I think if we saw the way he started to come on at the end of the season, we started to see some glimpses. We had gotten Derrick Rose, who was giving more. We were pushing the ball more with Derrick Rose, and they were throwing more lob passes up to Obi Toppin in transition, which I think is going to be a key point to his value and to his game in the NBA. But then we saw Summer League, and in Summer League, my boy Obi was balling. He was one of the top 5 guys in Summer League. He was hitting the three at a much better rate, and he I think he might be able to play a little bit of small forward. I think that you might see Randall and him playing power forward, small forward, or you might see one at center and one at power forward for stretches this season. I think that at Obi last season, Thibodeau has a history of not playing rookies. And Obi did kind of crack into the rotation for a decent stretch with Tibbs, and Tibbs gave him a run in the playoffs. I think that Obi actually is trending up. I think that Obi could have some value. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's going to be an award winner. But in those later rounds, I think you could do worse than taking an Obi Toppin.
Yeah, I would also agree. I think, despite not providing those solid fantasy stats for now, it's still his second season. But generally, I think he'll definitely improve, and then maybe more opportunities for Obi
Right.
Toppin this season.
Although I
How
gotta
about
say, if we're going to talk about Knicks, one guy that I think that a lot of people, he's not someone that you're going to draft, but you're going to want to keep on your radar, is Deuce McBride. The Knicks have a lot of injury-prone point guards. We have Kemba and Rose. Both of them are injury-prone. And while Quickly does offer a lot of upside, I think that McBride is going to be someone that the Knicks fans are going to fall in love with, and he might find his way into becoming a really good late-round pick and solid role player for this Knicks team.
I really love that pick, Deuce McBride. When New York picked that, I think that was a value pick during those
In the second round
rounds.
at that, he was a first-round grade. That was amazing
Exactly.
for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How about this one? A sneaky player, not in the game, but during COVID, he got sneaky leaky back in the bubble. Daniel House. We had a lot of young guns in the Rockets. What happens to Daniel House?
I just don't know. He was getting a decent amount of burn, but the Rockets did get 2 big men in their draft this year. Sengun and somebody else. You have Christian Wood there. So
Naruba. I think Usman Naruba.
Yeah, they had 2 international guys that I can't pronounce. But both of them, from what I've seen and heard, are legit players that are going to come in and be able to get time immediately. So they are someone that we're going to have to put on our radars. And with that being said, Kenyon Martin Jr. actually showed a lot of promise as well and playing that power forward, small forward role. So I don't really know how to gauge House yet. I need to see how these Rockets play because the Rockets are a team that's building for the future. So who do they see as part of their future? That's the key. How do they value these guys? Who's going to get the time? Who are they going to develop? Those are all questions that we have to see once the coach starts breaking down his lineups and start giving us a little bit of a peek under the veil. For right now, I would say he's an undrafted type guy to me.
Exactly. I would rather have a Deshaun Tate or Kenyon Martin Jr. over Daniel House right now.
Absolutely.
Maybe last season, Daniel House sometimes.
Right.
Well, actually, even last season, is even I can't really pick him up. Maybe as a streamer, yes, but
right.
He
Or
wasn't
if an
healthy.
injury happens.
Exactly.
One of those guys go down, so he's going to get some extra time. Okay, I can understand it because he's a solid player. He's just nothing that you want to actively go out and pursue.
Exactly. And the last player, we talked about Anthony Davis earlier. This is going to be a steal because in Yahoo Fantasy, he was ranked 200 plus. Imagine that. If you're drafting in fantasy right now, it's sure to have this dude's name on your queue, Jonathan Isaac.
Okay, so now the question isn't if we like him because this is an obvious one, especially because I know you have people that listen to the podcast and people that watch the podcast. If you watch the podcast, we're 2 thumbs up on Jonathan Isaac. But my question here is, obviously we know he can block shots, he can shoot, he can score, he can rebound. He's a defensive elite player. He's a guy that Orlando just signed to a big deal, even though he's coming off the injury. So he's going to have a bona fide certified role with this team. Papi, my question to you is how early do you draft him? He's ranked 200 on Yahoo, but where do you pull the trigger on him?
Looking at it around round 10.
That's what I was thinking.
I would have Jonathan Isaac. Maybe round 9 if
Yep.
ever things get dicey. But
Yep.
I think round 11, I'm pretty sure he's gone by that
Yeah.
time. So I
Yeah.
think that's a sweet spot.
I
Uh,
think you could even justify going a little bit higher depending on your team build. Like if you're desperate for a center and you've built up good equity everywhere else, because his upside is what, top 25?
yeah, even there's a big chance it's gonna be a very solid second rounder when he's
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah. And is he going to start the season healthy?
He should, because his only issue was ACL, and it's more than a year.
Yep.
I'm not a super athlete, but I had an ACL before,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty sure he should have gone through a lot of things that
Sure.
improves his health. And then with that said as well, it's almost similar to how Triple J's case is, but Triple J played last season already, and his issue was only MCL. So
Yep.
that's the reason why this fantasy stud per minute stud are pretty exciting to be drafted this coming season.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, and I'll tell you if we start to see some training camp and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, he's going to go higher than what we're talking about already. He's going to push up into I would say at least maybe like 6 through 8 territory. Like
Yeah,
this is a guy that you I want to equate it to fantasy football. It's like a super elite player who got hurt the year before that's coming back that people don't remember as much, but you do remember. That's a guy where you're trying to wait on him to get the value because you don't want to take him too early because you know that he does have some risks and he's further down on the list, so you can get some other guys. But there's going to be a point, and that's going to be the point in the draft where it's like the value of the player versus the upside of the player. And that's going to be the point at which you take Isaac. And if we see him playing good in the preseason, his value is going to vault quickly. Because he, like we said, he's top 25 upside, top 15 upside. He does everything that you want from a fantasy basketball player, especially in categories-based leagues. In points-based leagues, I can see maybe you have a little bit more of a weight on him. But in categories-based leagues, this guy is a super stud.
exactly. I remember last season, I was always reminding everyone, if you are playing in Dynasty, last season was the best time to really get some
Yeah.
Jonathan Isaac stacks in your league.
Yeah.
Because the moment he plays,
Yeah.
you won't get your hand on
And I'll
a
tell you
Jonathan
this.
Isaac
I'll tell you
version.
this. The Orlando Magic signed him to his contract after he got hurt. Who does that? A team that really believes in the fucking kid. Like, you know what I mean? You have to be good enough for them to be like, you know what? You just got hurt, but here's the money, bro. Please don't go anywhere. We're gonna rehab you. You're like, he is gonna be the focal point. Him and Suggs. I think those are gonna be the
Exactly.
two guys that are gonna be the main guns in Orlando. And Wendell Carter. Wendell Carter, I feel like is gonna be a guy that's gonna get a decent amount of burn. All things considering.
Nice, nice. Wow. It's almost 2 hours and we haven't got enough for ourselves. This is pretty solid. So I really tried to even this is quite long for all those listeners. We really tried our best to capture every PF that you can think of. At least you have like a gist on our takes, and if because there will be a point in time when you're trying to draft in a fantasy league, and then you're going to have, hey, I need a PF. Who would I rather have? Who fits into my build? So I hope this specific episode will definitely help you out. And then if you have any further more questions and you want to ask something from Mr. Taco here, Mr. Taco, I'm gonna give you the table to really shout out again. Where can our listeners find you?
Sure, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at TDS Taco. I answer pretty much all tweets and DMs. You can find us on Instagram at the Daily Sporting, and I have a special basketball page that I'm developing called TDS Buckets, which is going to cover just our fantasy basketball stuff. Because, like I said, we do baseball, we do basketball, we do football. So I'm trying to separate everything to make it easier for just the fantasy basketball peeps. With that being said, you're going to see a lot more content from me coming up within this next month as we get closer to the season. With some mock drafts, with some breakdowns. I definitely got to have Poppy on so we can talk it up there. So I'm going to be bringing some more content as well, try to get you guys, locked up and loaded for this great 2021 fantasy basketball season.
Amazing, amazing. It's always been a fun time to be with you
Absolutely.
on the show. And then this isn't the last for sure. We're gonna do some mock drafts,
Oh yeah.
guys. Me and Mr. Taco has been talking every time. I think our good friend will also invite us in a league, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's see what's gonna happen there. But
Absolutely.
thank you so much, guys, for listening for this episode. Again, this is your fantasy papi, Papi Roy. Shout out to our Mr. Taco here for dropping by. Thank you so much for making time and effort. Again, Fantasy Basketball PH, like, subscribe, follow, share, comment. We are available on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Teacher, Periscope, and in Twitter, you can follow me at Fantasy Pinas. So let's get hype and play fantasy basketball, guys. There's a lot of things going on. I'm also gonna drop some episode about strategies. I'm gonna drop some episode sharing you the references because maybe you're just new in fantasy. There's a lot of sites there. Yes, there are some that you need to pay something, but I do believe they are worth it. But there are also some gems that provide what they call this free value, and then there are instances that they're just asking for some Patreon donation. So we're gonna talk about that in our next episode. So thank you so much again, Mr. Taco. This has been your fantasy papi. Mga paps, happy weekend and bye bye.